Hey folks, how's it going? It's Mr. Moray coming to you with a video all about how to do the Investigating Cost of College lab. Put your money where your mouth is. So, as a reminder, in this lab, what we're doing is we are investigating the cost of college. What's it really about? And this lab is going to be driven by your personal investigation about what colleges or vocational programs or kind of like training programs you might want to pursue after high school. And so the point is a couple things to think about: how is that payment actually going to happen? Like, how are you going to go about paying for it? And also to think about some of the bigger issues going on right now in America around this kind of political debate around the cost of college. Because, you know, it's been a concern and it's been something that's been on people's minds for a while, before you guys. And I think it's a debate that'll continue. So it's good to have some actual numbers to back that up. I encourage you to take a look at the front page where you can see some background and kind of some things that people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, have said about the issues, including our current vice president. And I will leave that kind of to you at this point. But I just want to give you kind of some background about where that's coming from. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the lab. You can see here on the right, I have my college cost calculator Google Sheet available. And you're going to want to have, if you can, you're going to want to have both your Google Doc, which is kind of like what you see on the left, and your Google Sheet, which you see on the right. For a lot of this lab, you're going to want to have these things side by side, because you're going to be plugging numbers into the Google Sheet, and the Google Sheet is going to be doing some calculations behind the scenes. And then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be interpreting the results that come from Google. So this is a scenario where you're using technology and you're interpreting what the technology is telling you. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first part, and that's background research. So what you need to do for the background research is you need to identify your top 5 colleges. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to collegeboard.org and you're going to search for the college in collegeboard.org. All right, folks, I'm now going to show you how to use collegeboard.org to actually do your research on your colleges. So what you're going to do, and it's going to look a little bit different. Mine, the appearance is somewhat different because I've only got Chrome open on a half window here. But what you want to do is you want to look for where it says search by college name. And what you're going to do is, as you see on the left, and what you're going to do is you're going to type in the name of your college. I'm going to use University of Massachusetts, Boston as my example. Okay, and what's going to happen is once you click in there, it will do the search for your college. And now you can see here, UMass Boston is here. This is actually not an updated picture of it, but yet it's okay. Here's our school that we're looking for. And what you need to do is you need to find where it says paying. Okay, and you need to click on where it says paying. And you can see that this is all outlined in the Google Doc. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take a look and you're going to take this information right here. You're going to copy it into the table. So in this case, if I'm living on campus, my tuition and fees, I'd write down UMass Boston. Tuition and fees, I'd write down $14,677. Room and board, I'd write down $17,437. Books and supplies, ideally that'll be provided for you. I would do an estimate of about maybe like $1,000 if you don't have any specific information, like it doesn't disclose it. So you put maybe like $1,000. And then what you're going to do, personal expenses, again, I'd say about $1,000 to $1,500 if it's not specifically written in there. If it is, then you would just, again, copy the values over. So you're basically just looking up schools, going to the paying section, copying those values in. One thing that's interesting here about College Board, it says the prices listed above are probably not what you and your family will pay. Most college students receive financial aid, which reduces the amount the family actually pays. And so in the beginning, what you guys are going to see once we collect our data is the worst case scenario. You're going to see, like, if you had no financial aid, what you're going to end up paying for, and you're going to see that it really can only get better from there. All right, so here's what I've done, folks. I've gone ahead and I've gathered my 5 colleges. Here's 5 colleges that I've applied to when I was a senior in high school. And I've copied this information down. You can see I put bold for books and supplies and personal expenses for UMass Boston because, as you saw, that information was not provided to me by College Board, so I kind of had to do some guesstimation there. Relative to like the other values for tuition fees and room and board, if I added on like another couple $100 here or there, it's not going to make like a huge difference. So I think it's okay to do a little bit of guesstimation if College Board does not provide the values for you. Here, like I said in bold, are some ones that you could try. All right, so at this point, what you've done is you've researched your top 5 schools, and you have the room and board, tuition fees, books and supplies, personal expenses. Now what you want to do, and by the way, everything that I'm going to explain to you is also written out on the Google Doc. And so I encourage you to take a look through the directions if you need that additional visual representation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the college cost calculator using the values I researched. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to school for 4 years. So you can see here I've made sure that I have selected 4 next to years in college. That's very important. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the values based on my research. So I'm going to start at UMass Boston. I'm going to fill in 14,677, and you can see it's done some population there. 17,437 for room and board. 1,000 for books and supplies, 1,000 for personal expenses. Now, what you're going to see is that these costs are not the same across the 4 years, and the reason that's the case is because of what we call inflation, right? So it's likely that when you go to college, your tuition is not going to be the same in the first year as the 4th year. And in a nutshell, what you have to remember is the tuition and fees go to a lot of different things. One of those things, for example, is paying the teachers, right? And so the teachers tend to be paid more every year. They get a little bit of a raise to help, them take care of their own personal, costs of living. And so someone's got to pay them, and that person is going to tend to be you. So each of these are subject to a little bit of inflation. Kind of, again, you don't need to focus super duper hard on where it comes from, but just to give you a sense and make it the most accurate presentation of what you're going to have to owe as possible. All right, so I just want to put that there. So what you have here is you have how it's evolving over time, and then what you have here is your total, okay, that you've accumulated. So by the end of year 4, you're at $140,299.17. Okay, so we've got that figured out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to, I don't know why this box is here. Hopefully, yep, I can make that go away. Nice. So we're going to go to the Finance Center. You're going to know it's Finance Center because, see, it says Finance Center. Okay, and we now need to determine how we are going to be paying for college. So you can see down here, this is how much money I've got to pay each year. I don't have a year 5, so that's right now all zeroed out. Right now you can see that in the first year I owe $34,114, and you can see that this is in red because I still have to figure out how I'm going to come up with that $34,000. Now again, in this initial simulation, what we're going to do is we are going to assume the worst case scenario, and that is that I am getting no help paying for college at all. Again, one of the goals of this lab is to show you that if you find other ways to assist in paying for the cost of college, then your situation can only really get better from what you see here. So this is like the most you're probably going to end up having to pay. Now, I there's estimates going in here, but again, the goal is to try to give you a sense of the worst case scenario. And then again, as we go through the lab, you'll see ways that you can save money in college. So there's a few different ways, as you can see on the left, that you can pay for college. So there's what we call subsidized and unsubsidized loans from the Department of Education. And what they do is they provide little loans for you to help cover the cost of college. A subsidized loan is a loan in which, while you're in college, the government is going to pay the interest on your loan. Now, one thing you might not know is while you're in school, though you're not required to pay back your loan as long as you maintain a certain amount of credits per semester, the bank is allowed to charge you interest on however much money you currently have. So the money that you owe is accumulating while you're in college, unless you have a direct subsidized loan, in which case that money is not increasing in interest. So that means however much you take at the end of 4 years in unsubsidized loans, that is what you're going to pay back. So huge advantage there. An unsubsidized loan is another loan backed by the federal government. You are going to pay interest during college, but it tends to be have a little bit of a better rate than the rate that you'd get if you went to a private bank. And on that note, the next option is you can take a private loan from a bank. They again charge you interest as long as you're in school. And as we're going to see, they tend to be a little bit more predatory. The payback, that is the number of years to pay it back, tends to be longer. And they are generally subject to a lot less regulations because they are a private company as opposed to the federal government. Then we have a Parent Plus loan. And a Parent Plus loan is a loan that your parents take to cover your cost of college, and interest does accrue during college. You also have the option of your parents paying for college. That's the only one you cannot choose in the beginning. And then you have the option of work study, and this is technically we could think about putting that as an aid option, but work study is money that you do not pay back. You work during college. The money that you're paying or that you're making from the job, some of that is going to go towards your college balance. So that is, it goes towards paying off what you owe. And again, that is money that is not paid back. And so what we're going to see is your closing balances over here. You're going to notice the only one that I don't add up in the end is work study. And that's because you do not have to pay anything of your work study back. The only money you'd have to pay back is subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, private loans, and Parent Plus loans. Okay? And then if your parents pay for college, hopefully they will be nice and they will not make you pay back the money that they've paid for you to go to college. So we're not going to be looking at the ramifications of that. So I just thought I'd take again a moment to explain to you what these different options are. Now these options are going to have different maximums. So for example, a private loan from a bank. So a bank is not going to necessarily lend you $140,000, or they're not going to necessarily lend you as X number of dollars. They might have a maximum amount they're going to lend you. In this case, you're going to see they're only going to lend you a certain number of dollars, and you're going to see why that's actually going to end up being good that they cap that money out. Okay, and direct unsubsidized and subsidized loans, those are going to have caps as well. The only one that does not have a cap is a Parent Plus loan. Actually, work study will have a cap, but a Parent Plus loan is the only loan that will not have a cap. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I need to cover $34,000. I'm going to take the direct unsubsidized and subsidized loans. That's going to take care of $5,500 in the first year, $6,500 in the second year, $7,500 in the third and fourth years. So I've got some money paid down. You can see that the amount remaining to finance is still a positive number, but it is less than what we started with, so we're making some progress. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of work study. You can see again over the course of the years, you get slowly and surely, you get more and more work study options, but I still do have $26,000 to finance. I'm going to do a private loan, and you can see the private loans are capped at $20,000. That's again a model that I personally chose. If you are going to consider a private loan from a bank to pay for student loans, you are going to want to think about what your options are, and you're going to want to investigate things like the interest rate and the maximum amount that they're going to allow you to borrow. And I'm going to need to take a Parent Plus loan to pay the remainder because unfortunately parents paying for college is not an option. You can see that I'm done because the amount remaining to finance for each year has now been reduced to 0. All right, all right. So I've now got how I'm going to pay for school. And so what I'm going to do now is for each program, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to navigate to where it says closing balances. So what you're going to have to do, if this is your sheet, you're going to have to move over. You're going to look for closing balances. It's right. See if you can see the N and the O. See if you can look at the cells. It's going to look the same for everyone. It'd be in the same places. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write under each type, I'm going to write the closing balance. So for subsidized loans, I have $19,000 in subsidized loans. For unsubsidized loans, I have $8,809.07. For private loans, I have $100,806.06. For plus loans, I have $22,647.91. And the only one that's not tabulated is the work study. So you are going to want to tabulate the work study independently. That you can just do with a calculator. So you'd add up 2,500 plus 3,000 plus 4,000 plus 5,000, and I got 14,500. But you're not going to worry about work study because, again, you are not going to pay back work study. So this seems like a lot, but one thing, here's a pro tip. As if you take unsubsidized and subsidized loans, for every single program you attend, the subsidized and unsubsidized loans are likely going to always be the exact same closing balance. And remember, because there's effectively a cap, right? So for example, in the first year, you could only take a total of $5,500 in subsidized and unsubsidized loans. $6,500 in the second, $7,500 in the third and fourth year. So what does that mean? If your program costs more than $5,500, $6,500, or $7,500 a year, depending on the year, you are going to have to take the maximum amount of subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And if that's the case, then your subsidized loan number and unsubsidized loan number are always going to be the same. So that's going to say, even though it looks like there's a lot, you're always going to be able to count on that. Work study, similarly, if you do work study for all of your programs, will always be the exact same amount. Where it's going to vary is the private loan and the plus loan, and that's going to vary based on how much additional money you need to cover. Now, again, what you're going to notice with the unsubsidized loan, interestingly, I took out $8,000 over 4 years, and yet I'm paying back $8,809. And then similarly, the private loan, I took out $80,000, but yet my balance is $100,000. And the plus loan, I took out, it's difficult to tell exactly how much, but the closing balance is more than the raw amount of money I took. The reason is because, again, for unsubsidized loans, private loans, and plus loans, the bank is collecting interest while you are in college. All right, what I'm going to do now, here's pro tip number 2. Leave everything in the first sheet and go to the second sheet by navigating over and click Payoff Calculator. So what you're going to do, once you have all of your college data, and by that I mean the program name, the tuition fees, etc., you're going to do first this information, and then you're going to come over to the Payoff Calculator. So I'm going to choose 9 for my month born because I was born in September, and you can see that's when it changes your age. So I graduate in May, June, July, August, September. So what this is this is a payoff calculator, also known as an amortization table. And amortization is just a fancy word of saying the process of paying off a loan in fixed amounts. So you can see here, for example, for my subsidized loan, I make payments of $128.94 a month, fixed payments, so I know what I'm expected to pay every month, and I make those payments until my balance reaches $0, okay? So in this case, you can see that I'm going to end up paying $23,000 for taking out $19,000. So I'm going to pay back $23,208. There's going to be about $4,000 in interest, and I'm going to end up actually paying $27,352 for that $19,000 loan. Okay, so that's just giving you a sense, and you're welcome to scroll up and down so you can see over time how the balance is changing. Once the balance gets to zero or negative, you can see that it blanks out because there's no need to pay off the loan anymore. So I can see, for example, my subsidized loan, I'm going to be 37 years old, and I will have paid that loan off. Again, though, please keep in mind, this is a worst case scenario. This assumes that you are not getting any money at all to help you pay for college, whether that be your parents kicking in some money, whether that be any kind of aid that we're going to take a look at. So just keep in mind, again, this is the worst case scenario. I just want you to be aware of that. So you can look at what happens with your subsidized loan, your unsubsidized loan, your private loan, and your Parent Plus loan. Now, again, it's important to note that if you do not choose a Parent Plus loan, for example, so let's say I had not chosen that. I come over here, I don't choose the Parent Plus loan. I come back, you can see there's going to be nothing there because you didn't take that kind of loan. Okay, so some of them might be blank depending on how you chose to pay for college. The only things you need to write down are these numbers right here. Okay, these numbers right here. So program 1 was UMass Boston. I financed a total of $151,263.04. I'm going to have to pay every month $1,000.81 across all my loans. I'm going to end up paying back $412,499.56. And the banks in total are going to make a profit of $261,236.51. So what does that mean? So I'm going to finance $151,000. That's the total amount of money I'm going to owe. And that actually doesn't include interest that I've actually been paying the whole time. That's been accruing. But in any case, at the end of when I graduate, I'm going to owe $151,263. So I get my diploma, that's my balance. And again, that's the worst case scenario. By the time all of my loans are repaid because of interest, I'll have actually paid $412,499. So in other words, I'll have paid back all of the $151,000 that I originally took out, plus $261,000 extra dollars that the bank will keep as extra money for giving me the loan. Okay, so the bank profit is a particularly important one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all that information in, and notice how everything is aligned here. UMass Boston's my first program. That's my first lineup for subsidized, unsubsidized private loans and whatnot. Total financed is the same is in the first row, and so on and so on. Now, a pro tip to save you time is that keep your financing options the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go back and I'm going to show you only one other example, and then I'm going to let you guys figure out how to do the rest on your own because it's the same process. So it'll kind of be taking a lot of time for me to show you every single example, but I'm going to show you what I mean. So now I'm going to go back. I don't need this anymore at this point. I'm going to do Boston University as my second option. So it's $58,072 for tuition and fees, $16,640 for room and board, $1,000 for books and supplies, and $1,320 for personal expenses. So, $77,000 a year. So, pro tip, you can see what I've done. I've kept all my financing options the same, so I don't need to worry about the finance center at all as long as I'm using the same financing options every single time. So again, don't worry about this because you're really not changing it's not as it looks complicated for sure, but you're not changing as much as you think you are. Okay, so again, you can see subsidized loans, that stayed exactly the same. Unsubsidized loans, those stayed exactly the same. 88, 09, 07. Private loans, those stayed exactly the same because they were capped. So if you think about it, BU is going to cost you more than $7,000 a year. So therefore, you can be sure you're going to max out your subsidized and unsubsidized loans every year. BU also costs more than $20,000 a year. So you can also assure yourself that you're going to max out your private loan. So again, a lot of these things are not going to change. I took work study, and that's also the same. So that's $14,500. And then plus loans, I took $236,504.52 in plus loans. So I'd write that in. Okay, so I've got that. Now I'm going to come to sheet 2. I'm going to look at the payoff calculator. Again, these numbers look big, but they are the worst case scenario. You're not necessarily going to do this payoff, but I'm telling you, it's the worst case scenario. And people say, listen, Mr. Murray, this is really stressing me out, and I 1,000% understand. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to investigate financial aid, and you're going to see how much a little bit of aid can really bring these numbers down big time. All right, so in this case, I'm program number 2. I'm going to write $365,000. So I financed, this is how much I paid for school, $365,119.65. My monthly payment is going to be $2,188.37. I'm going to end up paying, so hopefully you felt like $1 million after you graduated BU, because under the worst case scenario, you're going to pay back more than $1 million to the bank. And what the bank is going to do is the bank is going to go ahead. They're going to collect the entire $365,000 that they loaned you, and they're also going to collect an additional $680,000. So the bank profit is the money that the bank, remember, makes for giving you the loan, in addition to the total amount of money they lent you in the first place. Okay, so I'm not going to do all 5 of my programs because, again, that would take a lot of time, but hopefully you get the idea. You're going to type the numbers in to the payoff calculator. You're going to set up how you're going to finance it by checking the boxes, and you can keep the boxes the same every time to save you time. You're going to write in your closing balances for each type of loan. Then you're going to pivot to the payoff calculator, and you're going to copy in each of those 4 values. So you're not doing any calculations. You're letting the sheet do the calculations for you, and you're going to then fill in whatever the sheet is telling you. You're welcome to look at this for more detailed information, but you're not required to write anything else down from the sheet but this right here. Now, the one thing is, when were you going to pay off your loan? So what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down. See, this is your age, and you're going to scroll down until nothing more is visible. So see how subsidized was paid off, unsubsidized was paid off, but I still have a private loan. So I'm going to keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Okay, the private loan is paid off. So I'm going to keep scrolling on this final one, keep scrolling, keep up, and now I've got my Parent Plus loan paid off. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at my age, and the age where I'm going to have paid off my loan is when I'm 52 years old. Now, that being said, this assumes that you graduate at 22. I personally graduated when I was 24 or 25. So it depends. That's assuming you go to college right away. So, and therefore you graduate at 22 because you graduated high school at 18. Not necessarily how everyone's path in life, but again, I do have to make some assumptions for the purposes of doing this model. Okay. So, guys, don't stress out because this was the worst case scenario. So what I'm going to do is, look, BU was really, really, really pricey. I'm going to see if I can find ways to cut the cost of going to BU. So there's a few ways that you can get quote unquote free money to pay for college. So the first way you can get money is grants. So these are funds that are given to you to pay for college. And so the most well-known type of grant is called a Pell Grant. Currently, the max Pell Grant is $64.95 per year. I found that by looking it up. You can also get what is called an institutional grant. Institutional grants. The institutional grant is just money that the individual school gives you. So a Pell Grant, if you're given the Pell Grant and they said, we're going to give you a $6,495 Pell Grant, you can take that to basically almost any college. I'm assuming it's got to be accredited by the Department of Education, but almost any college you take that to, they will pay that $6,495. An institutional grant might be given to me by BU, and they'll say, okay, we're going to give you a $10,000 institutional grant, but the $10K has to be spent at BU. You can't take that money wherever you want. Okay. We also have the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. Only applies to state schools, and it's based on your MCAS scores. And you can get free tuition, though it does not cover the fees. Okay, it only covers the tuition part. There's merit-based scholarships, and those are earned based on your performance. One example is the National Merit Scholarship, which you qualify for when you take the PSAT, which is also the National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. So whenever you see PSAT/NMSQT, the PSAT scores could help you earn a National Merit Scholarship. Schools also offer institutional scholarships that are merit-based that can only be spent at the schools. And then you have a need-based scholarships that are based on financial need. So if your family might not have enough money to help pay for college, totally get it, totally understandable. The need-based scholarships will provide you money. And then people who already have the money to pay for college, they would not be able to apply and get those need-based aids because they don't need it. They've already got things covered in that regard. All right. So I've received all different kinds of these. I was an Abigail Adams and John Adams Scholarship recipient. I did not get a Pell Grant, but I got institutional grants and I got merit-based scholarships. I've never gotten any need-based. I've never needed them, fortunately, but many people do. Now, again, these are going to be estimates, and it's possible, like, for example, when I went to Goucher, back when I went to Goucher or applied to Goucher, the tuition was only about $40,000, okay? And what I got is I got like a $25,000 scholarship. You're not going to see numbers this high. So what I'm saying is, again, what you've seen so far, that is the worst case scenario, and it could actually be better than that. So what you're going to do for this experiment is you're going to choose, and this is really important, only one program. So that's going to be your favorite program, one that you're really passionate about applying to. I'm going to choose BU. So what you're going to do first is you're going to go back to when you did your original calculations, and you're going to copy those values over. I'm going to go to the Payoff calculator to help me out. If you don't choose the program that you already have put in here, what you need to do is you need to go back. See step 1, go back and reset up everything the way it was when you filled it out. So if you're doing the same Finance Center stuff every time, don't worry about it. But let's say I chose UMass Boston instead. I'd have to go back and type in the tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, personal expenses for UMass Boston. Okay, so I'm choosing BU. So no aid means the worst case scenario, you get no aid at all to pay for college. And again, I believe that is not necessarily likely to happen. I think you're going to get some kind of aid. Some aid, though, needs to be applied for, and that's something we're going to think about. So 104555423, and the bank makes 680. Of course, the bank probably does not want you to get scholarships because obviously that hurts their bottom line, but it is what it is. So Plan A. Plan A means we're going to check the box next to Pell Grant. So we got all of our finances set up. I'm going to check Pell Grant. Okay, see what happens when I check and uncheck it? You can see some of these values are going down. So what's happening is $6,495 is being sliced off of my tuition. Okay, but you can see that over the course of 4 years, instead of being at the 317 number, I end up at the 291 number. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the Payoff calculator. Okay, and again, the only numbers that matter up at the top. So you can already see, just by getting that one grant, I now am only going to be financing $333,833.84 My monthly payment is $2,014.64. So just by having that grant, I'm actually paying more than $150 less a month. The total I'm going to pay, $952, $942 and 51 cents. And the bank's profit, $619,108.67. Okay, so that's, we type that in. I've got to write it because I don't have a Google Doc. I'm just writing into a smart notebook. All right, then we do situation 2. So check the box next to Pell Grant. Sorry, that's plan A, that is. Plan B, same as plan A, but I'm going to set the need-based scholarships to $2,000. Okay, you can see again some numbers have changed. So I'm going to go back to 0. You can see it's a little bit higher. Need-based aid, I put in $2,000 a year. And the Pell Grant. So what happens? You can see again there's a shift. Now I'm only taking out $324,200. And again, it's likely that you could get a lot more aid than this. So again, things seem like there's a lot of stuff going on, like you're really in a tough position, but I'm going to say it's probably not going to end up as bad as you think it's going to be. So right now, again, slowly but surely, you can see that I'm paying less and less money. All right, Plan C. So a little clarification on Plan C. Plan C should actually be really the same as Plan B in a sense. So what I'm going to do is, in addition to having 2,000 in need-based, I'm also going to have 2,000 in merit-based. And so you can actually you can really go wild, once you're done with the experiment, and see, what if I did $10,000? What would that do? What if I was getting $20,000 a year in scholarships? What would that do? Well, so far I'm getting $4,000 and a Pell Grant, and now I'm getting into the next phase. And now look what I've already gone down to $314,000, $566 and 22 cents. I'm paying $1,907 a month and 64 cents. I'm paying back a total of $895, $906.82. So see, I'm just literally taking these numbers right off of the Google Sheet. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you guys just read the descriptions and go from there. Read whatever the description says, set the aid options accordingly, hook that up, and then write that in. But you can see again, just by getting a little bit of aid, not that even that much aid, it's a lot of money, but compared to the cost, I've already taken down my monthly payment from $21.88 to $19.07. So that's almost $300 a month that I'm saving just by getting a little bit of financial aid. And if you get more, I'm just going to show you real quick. What if I got $5,000 in merit-based? Then maybe I get like $9,000 from the school per year. You can see that actually is going to cut my payments again by a significant amount of money. The bank is actually getting almost $100,000 less over the period than even Plan C. You can see that again, compared to no aid, I'm paying almost $500 less. Actually, I'm paying $548 less a month just because I got a little bit of financial aid. So again, the point is for you to see how much of a difference a little financial aid can make in the long term. Because in life, guys, you only get to make the decision once. If you make the decision in an incorrect way, you're not going to know until you're in a place potentially where you're not going to have as many doors open. So if you can use the analytical math skills here and make the decision, and you can really think it out analytically, then you're going to be in a really, really good place to set yourself up for success financially. Because you're going to want to buy other things in life. You're going to want to buy a car. You're going to want to buy a house. How much money you have open based on not having to pay as much student loans will make a difference. All right, the next scenario is going to be difficult circumstances. And so I'm going to copy this amount in. I'm going to go again off of the same school, Boston University. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now I'm going to reset all of my aid back to 0. If it says invalid, don't worry about it. I'm going to set all my financial aid back. And I'm just going to just double check and make sure, yep, see, all of my values are as is. So these are tough scenarios, and these come from my experience teaching college. So what I want you to know is that sometimes difficult stuff happens in college. And so the issue is, there's a lot being put on you, but little situations can really lead to big financial consequences. I can tell you this because a good amount of people that I teach in my college classes fail the course. And as a result, that money that they're not getting back turns out, as you can kind of get a sense, to be a lot of money they're paying over time to not actually get any credit. So really, really important to think about this. Okay, so let's take a look. So for step 1, what we're going to do, we're going to write everything out as is, as if nothing bad had happened. That's what it means. But when it says all good means nothing, no kind of adversities, nothing like that. Situation A. So all you're going to do, you just read the directions. You fail a number of classes, you need to spend another year. I was supposed to be in school for 4 years. Now I'm in school for 5 years. What happens to my payments? In this case, that 1 year is going to do this as follows. So now, because I had to spend another year in school, now instead of, it can also affect things like your financial aid, but now I'm financing $460,683.04. But what you really want to look at, they're all important values, but you want to look at the monthly payment, because that's what, at the end of the day, once you guys graduate college, they're going to figure out immediately. I said this in class, and you're going to get a bill for your college loans very, very fast. Usually you need to start paying within 6 months of graduating college. But think about it. Look at this. So just because you failed a year, what's the consequence? You're going to end up paying $600 more per month because of your mistake. So that mistake is costing you $600 a month. And look, things happen, but I just want you guys to understand the financial consequences of your actions, okay? And then just because of time, I'm just going to say follow the directions, assuming they apply to you, just read through them, adjust things as needed, okay? And then go from there. Okay? Now, if you're not using work study, for example, you can leave that blank. And I'm going to know you're not using work study, for example. If you don't have subsidized or unsubsidized loans, don't worry about the scenarios. So only do the scenarios that apply to you. Now, one last thing. Situation E. Situation E seems like it's not a big deal. But what you got to remember is you withdraw halfway through your program. So what would that mean? So in this case, I only go to school for 2 years, right? So it looks like not a bad deal. But though I only am paying $1,000 a month, I don't actually have a college education to get a better paying job to pay that money every month. So you're dropping out of college, and those 2 years of college might not actually buy you anything in terms of better wages and a better living situation. So I just want to make you all aware that it's going to seem like things went down, but you got to think about what that means. The last step, guys, is you're going to do some reflection. Some of this is going to involve math calculations, and some of them is going to involve your personal opinion. For the first one, for your least expensive college that you simulate, suppose paying back your college loans made up 20% of the amount of money you earn each month. How much money would you need to earn each month to afford your loans? How much money does this translate to per year? Is this realistic? So what I mean in that scenario, I'm going to use BU as an example. So I'm just going to go back. I'm going to reset BU so you can see what I mean. All right, so right now, 2188. Let's say I'm going with 2188. What I'm saying is 2188.37 is 20% of my monthly income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by 5 because 20% times 5 is 100%. That's going to tell me the amount of money that I need to make per month. So 2188.37, 2188.37 times 5. I need to make 10,941 and 85 cents a month to be able to pay back that loan. And then per year, that I multiply by 12, and I get $131,302.20. So in other words, if my loans made up 20% of the amount of money I take home each month, then I need to make $131,000 a year to be able to afford my loans. Is that realistic? I leave that to you. But keep in mind, one thing that you are going to investigate is things, if you look at the second part of the reflection, public students loan forgiveness, where you can get a really big cut off your subsidized or unsubsidized, some of your federal loans, your public loans. Doesn't affect private loans usually. You can do income-driven repayment. That's a really, really good thing you guys want to investigate. So income-driven repayment, there are programs where for federal loans, it will force your loans to only be a certain percent of your income, usually 15%. So basically, I go and I say, all right, I make $60,000 per year. So they say, all right, you make $60,000 per year. That means you make $5,000 a month. That means that $750 is all you're going to have to pay per month. So you're not going to pay back the $2188. You're going to be paying $750 per month. So that way, you don't have to make a decision between putting food on the table and affording your loans. So that's important. I also encourage everyone, and this should say 2019-2020, I encourage you all to take a look at the Milton High School Senior Awards from last year and to find at least 3 scholarships that you could apply for. And I'm asking you to do that because one of the big things I want you to do is I want you to figure out now, before you get to senior year, how you can start applying for ways to pay for college. Because this is a fact. There's only a limited pool of money. The earlier you apply, the earlier you get on it, the better chance you're going to have of getting as much money as possible. So folks, I hope you found this helpful. Again, if you're someone whose parents are paying for college for you, that was the case for me as well. I can relate to it. I want you to think about that, how fortunate you are and how much money you're going to save yourself. And if you're not, that's okay. This will get you started maybe having those conversations and plan your route out. So again, hopefully you found this video to be helpful. I encourage you to stay after school, come before school for extra help so I can help you make sense of this really, really relevant lab. I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to love math.